Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to this video. We're gonna be talking about how to duplicate the whining noise on your transmission when you go to the mechanic. Because I know this is quite a big issue with everybody, with a lot of people. I keep on reading people going to the mechanic with whining issues. Yet, when they get to the mechanic and the mechanic checks up on it or drive it around, they can't duplicate the noise. So what happens is the mechanic tells you that there's no issues with your car because they can't duplicate the issue. Well, let me just go into detail on why it is so difficult to duplicate the transmission whine with your mechanic. All right, first of all, that whine, a lot of times when people are taking their cars to the mechanic, they're taking the car to the mechanic because that whine comes up. I know it's like the early stages of the whine. I mean, it's not really noticeable. It's noticeable enough where it becomes a worry to you, but it's not present all the time. I've had situations where, my car starts whining, particularly after I change this transmission fluid. After like a little bit of time, you can hear the whine every now and then when you press on the accelerator. However, it's not present all the time, and it's not all that loud. Now, I've had my car for a while, driven my car a lot. I have 288,000 miles in my car, so I know, pretty much all the symptoms and issues and what would happen to my car depending on, how the transmission sounds, whether that whine was, not that big of an issue where it doesn't come up quite a bit, or if I'm driving it and it comes up all the time and my car goes into limp mode and stuff like that. But a lot of people, when they take their car to the mechanic, it's like the early stages of the transmission whine. They're kind of worried about it, so they take it to the mechanic. The mechanic drives it around and they can't duplicate it. Well, the thing about it is, if it's just the early stages of the transmission whine, a lot of times that comes up when the weather is like really hot out, or you've been driving it excessively, like for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, or if you have a lot of passengers in your car or a lot of stuff in your car, and the car is weighted out, and you're driving it, and it takes a lot more. There's a lot more in the car, so it weighs a lot more, and there's a lot more exertion on the car, so that the whine becomes apparent. So when you take your car to the mechanic, what he's gonna do is he's gonna take he's gonna check it out first. He's gonna check it out, hook it up to a computer or whatever, and he's gonna drive the car around for like 5 minutes, and then after 5 minutes, he's gonna drive it around the block. He's gonna come back and tell you, there's no whine. We can't hear the whine. There's no issues. You don't have any issues at all with your car. And you're left with, well, I know it occurs. I know it occurs. It occurred like, the other day when I was driving it, and there might be an issue there. Well, if he can't figure it out, he's not gonna try to fix it for you, or whatever. Particularly if it's a dealership mechanic, and he's gonna tell you there's no issues with it. Now, how do you get around that? Well, obviously the best way to get around that is you got a cell phone, tape it, videotape it, the sound, put it, just have your video camera on while you're driving, and just videotape the sound and play it for the mechanic. But here's the thing. These mechanics, they already know what the whine is, particularly these dealership mechanics. they know about the whine. A lot of these times the whine is just part of the transmission. You know, particularly when you're not hearing it too much, but you're hearing it every once in a while. That's just part of the transmission. It doesn't mean that there's an issue with your transmission, and they know that. They're not going to tell you that, and the reason they're not going to tell you that is because, you know, they don't want to tell you that they sold you a car where the transmission, where it's a common thing for the transmission to make noise. Just like they don't normally tell you what safe mode is or limp mode. I mean, it exists. I mean, unless you actually nudge them on it and specifically make reference to it, they're gonna pretend they don't know about it. You know, you could be driving your car and the car goes into safe mode, and then the next day you take it to the mechanic and you're like, hey, these are the symptoms of my car. I mean, I was going 80 miles per hour for like, you know, 70, 80 miles per hour for like 30 minutes, and you know, out of nowhere my car just starts decelerating and drives like crap. I get off the ramp, and it starts like it feels like it's slipping on me. The transmission is slipping on me. So you tell them that, and they're like, you know, well, we're gonna try to duplicate it, but you know, they probably won't be able to duplicate it because they'll be driving the car for like 5 minutes. They'll be driving the car, and then they'll come back and say, you know what, there's no issue with your car. And if you don't know what limp mode is, chances are they're not going to tell you what limp mode is because, you know, they don't want, particularly, you know, these are like specifically, I think, dealership mechanics where where you put the car from. They're not going to tell you, oh, you know what, that's just your transmission. You know, that's just limp mode in your transmission. It's a normal thing if if your transmission fluid thins out or whatever. And you know, if you guys watch my videos, you know, there's a lot of things that you guys could do with limp mode and stuff like that. And there's simple things like changing this transmission fluid. I mean, that should get rid of it for the most part. But a lot of these guys, they either want to make money off of you, so they'll give you different diagnoses, and it probably might not fix the issue, but they'll get to make money off it, so it's not going to be a big deal to them. Or they'll know that it's like a common issue to CVT transmissions, and they're not going to tell you that, oh, that whining noise. I mean, if you're not hearing it too often, it's not really a big deal. It's just because the transmission fluid is aerated, and there's a couple of things you could do when it aerates. You could either make sure that the transmission fluid is like half full, 3/4 full at most, don't overfill it, or you just change the transmission fluid, and that should get rid of the problem most of the time. And you know, if they're honest, they'll tell you that. If they're not honest, they're gonna just pretend they don't know it, I'm pretty sure, because you know, there's like, I've been reading so many, you know, I've been doing a lot of research on this online and stuff like that, and a lot of people have written that, you know, they've gone to the mechanic, try to figure things out, trying to duplicate the whining noise, and you know, the mechanic keeps on telling them that there's no issues with it. The truth of the matter is, these mechanics work on these cars enough to know, you know, if you tell them, oh, you know, I have a whining noise in my car, they should be able to just roll off, you know, a whole bunch of answers to you about symptoms, about why it occurs, all that stuff. A lot of these guys don't want to because they don't want to badmouth their own cars. You know, if you know what that CVT transmission is about, if you understand it, you know, it's not really like a huge issue. I mean, you know, if your car goes into limp mode, if your car has this horrible high-pitched whining sound from the transmission or from your car, you know, if you don't know anything about it, it becomes like a big headache because you're worried about it and stuff like that. You want to get a professional guy, to get a professional to deal with it, you know. And it's kind of frustrating when you go to somebody and, you know, they can't duplicate the issue and they tell you that there's no issues with your car. Chances are there probably is no issue with your car, and they probably know that whine is just a common thing with CVT transmission for the most part. It really doesn't mean that your car is about to break down, which a lot of people are worried about. Oh, I have a loud whine in my CVT. I think my car is going to break down. I have 288,000 miles on my car. I know I've driven this car with that whine for like 50,000 miles without changing the transmission fluid. So I mean, if you're going to drive a car with that whine for 50,000 miles, chances are good, it's not really a huge issue. I mean, it's a nuisance as far as that sound is concerned, but it's not a really, really huge issue where you think your transmission's about to snap or the belt's about to snap or your gears are broken or anything like that. I mean, from my personal experience, it's not like that. And from my personal experience, that whine, a lot of times, it's just a little warning to you that you probably should be changing your transmission fluid, and that's pretty much it. It should get rid of the problem until the next time you need to change your transmission fluid. As far as safe mode and limp mode is concerned, yeah, that stuff is, it's kind of worrying if it goes into limp mode and safe mode quite a bit, but change your transmission fluid in that limp mode and safe mode shouldn't you shouldn't be experiencing that as a thing. You shouldn't be experiencing it often. I mean, it should not go into safe mode or limp mode, but it really doesn't mean that you have a big issue with your transmission, with your CVT transmission. Chances are it probably means that you need to change the transmission fluid, which is what I did over the summer a second time. I changed the transmission fluid and my car hasn't gone back to, I haven't had like a safe mode, limp mode issue since. But that whine has come back though, and particularly over the summer when it was pretty hot and humid, you could hear it a lot. But since it's gotten colder, I haven't really heard it that much. It does show up, but I would have to be driving it for like 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes for that to show up. So, but I haven't gotten to limp mode. And if it does, all I gotta do is just change my transmission fluid and that should get rid of the problem. Now, I have a particular problem with my car where if I drive over 80 miles per hour for like a good 30 minutes, it automatically goes into limp mode. I haven't been able to figure out that issue. I'm pretty sure if I did get a transmission cooler with a fan, an independent transmission cooler radiator with a fan, that hookup probably would solve the issue. I'm pretty sure, and it's a pretty easy fix. But like I said, I've got 288,000 miles on my car. It's not like the biggest deal to me at this point, and I don't actually, I don't normally go 80 miles per hour, 70 miles per hour on the freeway that much either. So if I needed to, I would hook up a transmission, a separate transmission cooler in my car. If you guys watch my other video, it's pretty simple and it's pretty cheap. I would do that if I had to, but at this point, I'm probably not going to do it. But yeah, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, if you guys want to duplicate it for a mechanic, I don't know why you guys might want to at this point, because there's like enough information online, on YouTube, on my channel. There's enough information where you could actually just understand, the common noises of a CVT transmission and what it means, as far as, damage, or what it means as far as, maintenance and stuff like that, that you shouldn't actually need to go to your mechanic and try to duplicate, that noise for them. I mean, there's like enough information out there already where if you do enough research on YouTube or whatever, it should be one of those common things to you where, okay, it's not really something that I should seriously worry about. A lot of times it's just a common sound that comes from your transmission. It's a common sound that comes from your transmission a lot of times, and other times it just means that you need to change your transmission fluid, and that should take care of your issue for the most part. Not always. I mean, obviously, if you find out that you change your transmission fluid and it does the same thing, when you drive it, probably, there's probably some other issues that you might want to look at, and I've done a bunch of videos on this. All right, guys, take care.